Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Friday, July 11th. And, you know, we get to the doldrums of July. There's not too many, certainly not much Mizzou sports happening, none at all, really. You know, even in a national sports landscape, you don't got much going on. And as a college sports podcast, you know, you try to find topics. We're doing Mount Rushmore season. This is now the third week in a row we will be pushing Mount Rushmore to Sunday when we, you know, have intended to do it for the Friday shows. But you know what? The endless recruiting cycle and the, I don't know, podcast gods, maybe content gods said, no, guys, you're going to have plenty to talk about for this July 11th show because we've got some big time Mizzou men's basketball recruiting news out of nowhere. If you've been living under a rock, this happened a couple of days ago. Mizzou has all of a sudden been forecasted kind of widely to potentially land a 5-star guard in the class of 2026. Super exciting stuff. It is Jason Crowe Jr. You can see his profile on On3 if you're watching on the YouTube. The industry ranking there for On3 has him as the number 6 player, the number 3 shooting guard, and the number 5 player from California. And if you scroll to the very handily placed article tabs, you can read things about how he's got a list of finalists that include USC, Kentucky, Texas. No sign of Mizzou until a couple of days ago when there's just been a bunch of forecasts that have now been casting him to the Tigers. So we're kind of going to dissect that. That's been the buzz. A little more detail about him. He does have a commitment date set for July 18th. So this is not going to be a long process to wait and see where he ends up deciding, with now Mizzou coming to the forefront of his recruitment. He doesn't have a set list of finalists. The schools that I mentioned are kind of just the ones that have been listed as ones to watch. He's like a 6'3" guard. You know, you can go watch tape on him if you want. But this is super exciting stuff, Kenny. And I want to start with you because the thing I had been reading that had kind of been immediately linked with him and Mizzou's kind of rise up his recruitment has been thanks to their new GM, Tim Fuller. I felt a little vindicated reading that because we did so many shows about the GM search, talking about how important that position would be. And all of a sudden, it seems like Tim Fuller is playing a big role in potentially getting Mizzou a 5-star here. Again, the commitment date's July 18th. But I want to start there. I think that's the best place to start. Kind of explain his connection that has allowed Mizzou to come to the forefront of Crowe's recruitment. And how much more deep does it go? Because I saw so many fans kind of being like, did they just throw a bag at the last second, which is, you know, a fair thing to suggest in this day and age. But how much deeper does it go? And how has Tim Fuller played such a big role here in Mizzou now being the seemingly leaders for Jason Crowe Jr., the 5-star guard here out of California, by the way? I don't think I mentioned where he's from.
You did. You mentioned there that he's ranked 5th in California. This class of 2026 is heavily rooted in California. I mean, guys transfer all the time, but he's playing out there in Inglewood. His dad is his coach, Jason Crowe. And that's where the connections come from, Jack. He played 13 years professionally, but he played high school basketball with the Truth, with Paul Pierce. He helped out with his EYBL team. He was the Truth Fund Youth Sports and Educational Director for the Truth EYBL. So connections there, you know, just that's a guy that Jason Crowe Jr. has really leaned into as well, just with his own recruitment, handling different parts of, you know, becoming a professional basketball player in these next couple of years, because he is a very, you know, established coach in Inglewood. Like, he has a great team out there. They've won before. It's not like he's just like a parent. Like, he knows basketball through and through. I've talked to him before. He has, like, you know, a very long resume of people he knows, you know, how to handle this game. He's really helped in his own son's development too. So he knows a lot about basketball, and there's those connections too. And he has one to Dennis Gates as well, from what I've heard. Might have crossed paths something before, but you know, that one with, you know, being with GM Tim Fuller is a big one. But the thing too, just like throwing bags around, I was talking about this with I can call my friend Gabe DeArmond, just over at Power Mizzou and just 247. We talked about it.
Friend of the show.
It's like, yeah, friend of the show. He's been on the show before, and Gabe's a good guy. We talk about it, and one of the big things is like I made this joke to him. He was like, fans don't realize that a lot of these kids don't go to colleges because they grew up being fans of that school. And I was like, are you telling me that not everyone has a photo of them standing in front of the Dome in St. Louis doing finger guns, and then they became the football, the quarterback for Missouri football, like Brady Cook? And that's one of the big things. It's like, I just never really comprehend, I think it's more of like a coping thing that maybe fans do to say like, oh, he threw a bag. School threw a bag. He's only chasing the money. I mean, Jason Crowe Jr. is probably not projected to play very long in college. He's going to do what he can to get on the floor. He's going to play, and he's going to try to get his best opportunity in the NBA, because at the end of the day, that's where a lot of these kids want to go. They want to get to the pros. And, if that's the best case at Mizzou, then that he'll jump right on that just like anyone else would.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more national, and I think in basketball, it's a little bit more easy to see that because you have these popular AAU circuits. You have so many tournaments in the spring, summer when these kids aren't in high school seasons that like everyone from all over the country can see them. And then, you go back to these AAU connections, guys like Tim Fuller, who are at that level. It's part of the credentials that we talked about that makes a good general manager is you never know when those previous roles are going to yield some important connection that puts you in a position to potentially land a guy like this. So yeah, I think, and Payton kind of like riffing off of that. I know, you're you frequent the message boards. You have a good pulse on kind of what the fan base is talking about with this. What was like the reaction you picked up on? I mentioned the thing that was something I saw, was just talking about potentially throwing a bag around and stuff. What did you see in terms of like kind of the reaction? What sentiments did you maybe agree with from the fan base in terms of, how important this is, their thoughts on Tim Fuller and his role in it? Just what were your kind of observations and reactions seeing this news and the entire Mizzou kind of community reacting to it?
Well, I don't think it's any secret, like Mizzou basketball has recruited at an absurdly higher level than we were used to since Dennis Skates has arrived. I mean, just 4 stars galore for the most part. I don't think we've seen Mizzou really be able to throw elbows in a 5-star recruitment quite like this, though. And I think that's why there's so much more buzz and so much more kind of shock from just about every corner of every fan base you can find. I mean, this came out of pretty much nowhere. Until this past week, we hadn't, most people probably didn't even know who Jason Crowe Jr. was in the Mizzou fan base. A couple of predictions from various outlets and a couple of just news drops later, and this is all of a sudden at the forefront of every Mizzou fan's mind. And it's not surprising at all. I mean, this is a guy who is potentially a top 5 prospect in the nation, depending on where you're looking. Not consensus, I guess, but like a pretty much consensus 5-star. It's a recruit Mizzou does not get is kind of the easiest way to put it. And I mean, you kind of talked about the Tim Fuller connection is big. Everyone kind of assumed it was Kentucky because, I mean, he's very close with a Kentucky assistant on staff. I believe it's Jason Hart. So everyone just kind of assumed that was a done deal, especially with such an early commitment coming up. But I mean, it doesn't really seem like Kentucky's in the picture. There's not really any school that's other than Mizzou that's solidly linked to Crowe. It's very weird that this just materialized out of nowhere, but you're not going to hear me complain about it at all. Kind of just riffing off what Kenny said, they threw a bag. That's, in this day and age, how is that seen as a bad thing or an insult? If Mizzou has a bag to throw around to get Jason Crowe Jr., they're able to pool NIL funds and revenue sharing and whatever else. I don't know how it all works. That's Tim Fuller's job. But if they have an offer that is able to lure a potential top 5 player in the country to Mizzou, that is a great thing. That is like a transcendently good thing. If Mizzou, with Tim Fuller in tow, using his connections and able to get the resources together to get players like this, And I mean, we've talked about it, like the 26 class has so many other guys that Mizzou is interested in as well that are highly ranked. You have Chronister, Tony Bryant, Ethan Taylor, Tristan Reed. I'm sure I'm missing more even, but this looks like it could be. And I mean, after the portal was kind of just, not, you didn't get a superstar out of the portal. I think people maybe were tempering expectations just kind of what Mizzou really could do recruiting wise. For them to, since Tim Fuller took over, and obviously I know Scotty Atkinson probably wasn't as much a Tim Fuller pull as maybe just the coaching staff winning that one outright. But for the first two recruiting bits of news to be the Atkinson, a top 30 guy in the 27 class committing, and now all of a sudden you're seemingly in the driver's seat for Jason Crowe, that's very exciting. It's energizing. It's a big shot in the arm for a program that, honestly, after the way the last season ended and the way the portal went, I think really, really needed it. And look, this is not just an average 5-star recruitment. This is a top 5 guy in the nation.
Average 5-star recruitment.
Yeah,
It's just, those words are just funny.
But I mean, this guy's top 5 in the nation.
Right.
They're 10 days away from a commitment date or whatever it is. It's July 18th when he commits. Surely there's going to be other schools that are lining up to try and pry him away. Mizzou's going to have to do everything it can to hold on to him, I'm sure. But it's very, very exciting to potentially be on the precipice of getting a commitment like this for Mizzou.
Yeah, Kenny, I kind of want to ask you about that, like what Payton said with how this has come out of nowhere and the kind of weirdness about how there aren't, I mean, I read kind of like USC and Texas, but like I read that as like a footnote, like there are just some other schools to watch. Is this, I mean, I don't know if you have any like insider just thoughts on that. Like, how unusual is that for a guy of his stature to not really have, not every guy likes to put out a top list. That's understandable, but you at least sometimes you see the people who have intel at least pry like a grouping of schools out that, like Payton said, it almost seems like it doesn't exist here. I don't, that like is pretty just interesting to me. I just don't think you see that, especially in this day and age. I don't know if you have any thoughts with that or anything else Payton said.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the big things is that he doesn't have Twitter. I think you run into some high school basketball players who just really, X, the everything app on X. You run into the athletes like this that just don't have that presence maybe on the app that is known for breaking news. And one of the big things I think a positive for him, and take this, maybe some people don't see it sometimes, but with his dad's just understanding of basketball at the pro level and the college level, and just him being through it before. And I know it's changing, but he's dealt with EYBL and AAU players going through the same process. He's kind of handled a lot of it. He's handled a lot of the communication and really just, he wants his son just to play basketball. I think that's one of the biggest things. He's his father, he's his developer, he's his coach. Like, he has all these moving parts. And when I talked to his dad, one of the big things he mentioned is like, Jason Crowe Jr. has dealt well with like just people kind of, maybe nitpicking his game or, the haters. And his dad talked about that. He's like, he comes to him and maybe it like bothers his dad just a little bit, just because you don't want to hear, your son kind of, hearing this kind of stuff. But the Jason Crowe Jr., it just didn't seem like it bothered him at all. Like, he just handles it so well. He's a good head on his shoulders from what his dad was saying. And I think that really just kind of plays into it, is like, he's not really putting himself out there too much with, the updates and, constant interviews and, like, what do you like about this coach? What do you like about this coach? And what opportunities are they going to give you? And I think, his dad's kind of handled that well too, just helping him out with that and navigating it. And, having Paul Pierce in your corner too is a big addition, just with, understanding, what these next couple of years and months will look like as he tries to handle this period. But it just really kind of came out of nowhere. I thought, a very funny thing, Joe Tipton was the first person with On3 and Rivals to report it. And I like didn't even click on his link to read his story, because I was like, there's just no way. I've seen this guy's name before, because he's reported on Jason Crowe, and then like you said, just out of nowhere, and even he wrote it in his story, just pulled up. I guess I don't really have another word than out of nowhere. So, but the big thing for a lot of Mizzou fans, you're feeling great about it if you're seeing a lot of predictions going in from different outlets and a lot of people that are listening and talking to the Crow camp and
the Crow cohort.
cohort. Yeah, I think you have to feel great about it. We're literally, once this episode comes out, we will be 7 days away. He's actually going to announce on his 17th birthday, so that's a big deal for him to be able to do that. And Peach Jam's coming up too. There's going to be a big week of AAU basketball, UIBL down there in the Carolinas. So it'd be a lot of fun for a lot of these guys to make their names known, announce their commitments. Even talk to more coaches. So I think there will be even more about Mizzou connections coming out in the next week, and Jason Crowe will just be the big headline.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tim Fuller, the exec stuff, and working with Paul Pierce, and what that turns into. Again, it's all kind of a trickle down to leading Mizzou to be in a position for a kid like this. I'm interested to read. I think it's funny how much more comes out after kind of the kids sign and all that's figured out in terms of like where this recruitment kind of zigged and zagged until we've gotten to where we are. But yeah, we'll be 7 days away. Obviously, if he does commit to Mizzou, we'll talk about it. And I want to talk about it then if it does happen on July 18th, more about the player. But Kenny, I just like, it's interesting. You said kind of he has a chip on his shoulder from people nitpicking his game. The only thing I'll throw out, he went to the training camp for the under-19 USA basketball team that went to the FIBA World Cup. I think that actually just finished. He didn't make the roster, but he was the youngest kid there. I think he was 16, with guys like AJ DeBansa and Daniel Jacobson, who's that 5-star center for Purdue, are all going to be freshmen. So, I mean, he's a kid who like clearly tests himself against some good competition. He's playing in the Drew League right now, which is some people might know that's the league that Jamal Crawford started all those years ago. LeBron has played in that league. It's a pro-am league. He's playing with grown men in there. So a little insight. We could talk, again, if he does end up at Mizzou, July 18th, we will certainly talk more about kind of the player that Jason Crowe is. But yeah, Kenny, you got another thing?
Yeah, I mean, he's not just playing the Drew League; he's scoring 45 points in the Drew League against adults. Like he's 6'3", 170. Maybe there's going to be guys that are bigger than him, but he is just playing lights out. I mean, he has all the skills in the world to play at an elite level, and he's playing it against adults. And I mean, at this point, he's just can be considered as an adult. Just even though he's 16, he's going to be 17 next week. He just matches so well with a lot of these guys. And if Mizzou gets him, that's like an instant impact right away in that 2026-27 season. And I know Payton, if this commitment happens, this is the last thing I just want to bring up. You had a funny point about it. You want next season to go as fast as it can.
Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to this upcoming team. I mean, I'm a fanatic for Mizzou basketball. I'm going to watch every second of it. But I mean, man, if you're hauling in a top 5 recruit in the nation, and you maybe are able to supplement it with a couple of those other 26 guys I mentioned, like Tony Bryant, who's another 5-star, depending on where you look, Chronister, who's a very solid 4-star, Reed, Taylor, anyone else in that class. I'll be honest, it makes this next year feel like a bit of just a bridge year. No disrespect. I still think with Ant Robinson and Mark Mitchell and such an SEC that lost pretty much everybody, this current Mizzou team can obviously do some good things, but man, that 26 team is going to be the fun one if this were to happen. And I'll just throw this out there. All three of us, we pretty much became Mizzou fans in 2019 because that's when we all went there. This Jason Crowe Jr. commitment, if he were to commit to Mizzou, for you guys, if you're ranking the most exciting commits that we've had at Mizzou in our time, so since 2019, where would this one rank for you? I would say it would be number 2 behind Luther.
I might go 3 because of if I'm thinking only in a vacuum in terms of just focusing on when the commitment happened itself, I would have Luther, and then I think I would also throw Sam Horn in there. That was a pretty big deal at the time. Obviously,
so you wouldn't even throw Nwaneri over Crowe.
Oh, maybe him and Zollers I also would think about too.
Zollers was also
fun
one,
a big deal.
But I don't know. This is like a next level of recruiting to get someone like this. And I think it's only been done by Mizzou one time since we've been there, and that was with Luther.
While we're on the topic, Kenny, I just will throw Payton's mentioned a bunch of those other names. I know I was reading recently about Ethan Taylor, the 4-star center, as well as Tony Bryant, who's the other 5-star. Any quick notes on them, Aiden Chronister, anyone else? Obviously, Mizzou's targeting plenty, taking a lot of doing a lot of big game hunting in the 2026 class. Any quick updates there while we're on the subject with talking about Crowe?
Not necessarily. Nothing new really out of those camps. Last time I checked, too, like Ethan Taylor was still trying to figure out the best date. A lot of these guys are going to officially visit in September with Chronister, Bryant, and Reed all having dates set. I even reached out to Ethan Taylor's mom, too, and they just didn't really have a date set. That was a couple weeks ago. So things can change. Schedules can get set pretty quickly. But for a lot of those guys, if you're looking at maybe 3 to 4, I think the addition of Crowe really changes a lot of that. Not saying that, a lot of those guys are the same position, but when you kind of figure out the financial aspect, which isn't public facing, we just don't really know how much they will have saved for a lot of those other guys, but they're still pursuing. I mean, top guys, Tony Bryant would be, in a class with Crowe and Bryant would be incredible. It would be probably unmatched in Mizzou basketball history. So if you somehow pulled off that, Bryant, who's seen as a 5-star, a high 4-star by many outlets, that is a big win. But if outside of Crowe, I think the ideal 3 that I've talked to some people about would be Chronister from Arkansas, Tristan Reed, in-state guy who played at John Burroughs the last 3 years, and now he's headed to Link Year, and Branson, and then that last one would be Tony Bryant, and I think that's a very elite class, just those 3. But if you put Crowe into that mix, I don't necessarily know if you have the space or the roster cap moving forward that you can take all 4, but those are the big ones to me. I think Ethan Taylor is also a guy Mizzou really likes. Great defensive center. He's really coming into his own maturity wise and confidence wise as a scorer, and he's really growing at the same time. But he's got some big suitors too out there, and playing in Kansas recently and living there, he does have some connections to the Jayhawks, Kansas State, some other schools around the Midwest that are pretty big.
Yeah, you have to think, obviously, the money thing in terms of a cap. I like that you're using that lingo, because I think that's really going to start popularizing in the college phrasing when you talk about the finances. But I think you got to think rosters too with the portal. These teams just don't add as many high school recruits because they know they're going to go portal hunting as well. But we'll monitor all of that. Before we go to quick hits, we want to touch on some football recruiting as well. I'll get both of your takes on this, Kenny. I'll start with you, and Payton, I know you just kind of have a reaction to it. Mizzou football, I'm noticing we're not talking about another commitment. Missed on a couple more guys, Kenny. Cornerback Javonte Smith, couple linebackers in Braxton Lindsey, Adam Balogun Ali, and then the big one who we did talk about on this show as really what felt like the most realistic potential ad here at the beginning of July was Jaden McGregory, talented DB out of Iowa in Des Moines. Did not end up choosing the Tigers either. Both of your thoughts just on that, and kind of now where Mizzou's class ends. It's funny we're taking this like a week-to-week thing, but that's sort of what this is at the kind of current timeline in the middle of the summer here. But just both of your thoughts on Mizzou missing those 4 guys. Kenny can start if you want, unless Payton really wants to rant.
I'll let Kenny go first. I don't have that many rants about this.
Few words.
Yeah, the one big thing is where these kids are going pretty much leading up to it. There's not many secrets these days, and a lot of things, where things are trending, where guys are going. So a couple of those, it didn't, it kind of made sense. Like Javonte Smith, Mizzou probably felt really great when he moved back his commitment, but he even mentioned just in his interviews after announcing his pledge to Tennessee, a cornerback out of that state, is that, he kind of made up his mind. He visited the Volunteers and he knew that that's where he wanted to be. And, staying closer to home, playing for a school like Tennessee that's, been rising a little bit more these past couple of years in the SEC is definitely a good look for him, and probably a good feeling to be in that secondary. And they've got some good established coaches there too. So that one, really wasn't too much of a surprise. I think, maybe Mizzou probably was a little bit more in the mix. A lot of coaches are on vacation right now or just coming back from their trips as they've had some time off. So not necessarily maybe the biggest surprise. Braxton Lindsey, I think the only surprise there with him is that, he announced a top 4. BYU wasn't in it. He committed to BYU. You see this every now and then. I even asked him after his Mizzou official visit, I was like, is BYU still in the picture? Because people were asking me, around the network, like, why is BYU not in this thing? And he said, yeah, they're still there. He took that official visit. BYU had been around for a long time. Mizzou really got into the mix late with an offer in April after, being around him for a little bit. So, I mean, that one wasn't really a big one either. ABA, Adam
Balagan
Ali choosing Auburn, another thing where he said, he made up his mind, after his Mizzou official visit. Just, kids kind of take their time to, think about it maybe a little bit longer and then announce it. But he was pretty set on those Tigers, and that made the most sense. And like you mentioned, Jack, with Jaden McGregory, I mean, seen as like a silent commit, as a lean to Missouri for a while. Canceled his Kansas OV, still took his Louisville one. Mizzou looked really great until like the last day before he announced his commitment, where Louisville made a big push, really sealed the deal with him and brought him in. I think that's where we talked about it. Like, even when we recorded it, that news wasn't out there yet. And so we were still kind of thinking, okay, Jaden McGregory, Tony Forney, Jacob Yoro cleans things up. I mean, he's locked up for the summer. Like, he got his 2 guys that he needs at that position. Maybe Mizzou turns its head to some more guys this fall. I think there will definitely be. I don't think there should be more official visits, this fall and this season, just because there's still some, spots to fill on this roster. I'm even looking, scrolling through just the official visits right now, and I'll just run through this before you start talking, Payton. But there's only 4 guys that are undecided from Mizzou's official visitor list. One of those is Evan Jacobson, the tight end. I can tell you now he's not going to Mizzou. Mizzou's just taking one tight end at the moment. What is the plan? He even mentioned, in some previous interviews, some recent interviews, as he's gone over some of his schools that he officially visited, that, Mizzou really wasn't in the picture anymore. Jacob Eberhardt from Kirkwood in the St. Louis area. He's going to announce his commitment on Saturday. Everything's trending towards OU, big nickel, safety, athlete.
Awesome.
On the defensive side of the ball, a lot of Mizzou connections there. We talked about it. 2 other guys to just keep your eyes on kind of moving forward is running back TJ Hodges from Arkansas. Spoke to him early last week. He said he's still kind of making up his mind, still trying to plan things out. But, he wanted to come to a decision pretty quickly, get himself locked in with the school. But Mizzou really likes a 2 running back class, and a guy that they've targeted as someone who can come in and be a gadget guy, someone who can do something in the passing game and in the run game pretty early and see the field, get him developed pretty quickly for the SEC. The other one is JUCO defensive end DeMarcus Johnson, who I spoke to recently. He took official visits to LSU and Missouri. He has a connection to Brian Early when he signed with Houston back in the class of 2024. Brian Early wasn't there anymore, but he had previously recruited DeMarcus Johnson. So there's that connection as well. Or he was there, excuse me. That was the year before Brian Early came over. So a little bit of those connections, but he told me he's going to look into official visits to Mississippi State and USC this fall. So still taking his time. A lot of those JUCO guys can really stretch it out. They don't really have to follow some of the high school dates, and they can go deep into December with some of their visits and whoever they sign with.
Payton, any thoughts on Mizzou's recruiting status now after missing on those guys?
I mean, kind of is what it is at this point. It's pretty obviously going to be the worst high school class Drink has had, probably by a landslide, if I had to guess. I kind of had held out hope that, a couple of years ago, Mizzou only had Justice and Hafer going into the summer, and then they kind of went ballistic. That has not been the case this summer. They've gotten a couple nice commits, but not near, I think, what we were kind of hoping for. Not near, I think, what Drinkwitz was hoping for. Look, I get after what happened last year, they weren't going to overpay for high school guys again. And I totally respect that. I totally respect that they're going to probably turn their focus more towards retention and maybe the portal. I would still say you probably need to recruit. Well, I wouldn't say you probably need to recruit. You definitely need to recruit a lot better in high school than this. So it is what it is. I think it's probably a bit of an overcorrection. You kind of got to find a balance, in my opinion. We'll see. I don't really have any doubt Drinkwitz will figure it out. He'll get the pieces he needs to put together a competitive product, but it's a rather disappointing high school class. I don't think it's unfair to say that. I think Drinkwitz, if you gave him truth serum, he'd probably say he'd rather have a better high school class. I mean, there's some guys that I don't think you can really say for sure that that Drinkwitz and company wouldn't have liked to have. I think McGregory was someone they absolutely really wanted. He's someone we've been talking about for weeks now. It is what it is, though, at this point. I mean, they're probably not going to have a very highly ranked recruiting class. I don't even know, like, other than the guys Kenny just said, there's only 4 uncommitted guys. One of them in Eberhardt is not coming to Missouri, it seems like. I don't even know where you look for the rest of your class. It's probably guys we haven't even talked about ever. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I mean, you're going to have to nail the portal at this point, and you're going to have to keep guys retained. But I am rather disappointed in the high school recruiting class. But whatever, Jason Crowe Jr. might commit to Mizzou basketball, so it makes up for a lot of things this week.
It's a little bit of a silver lining there. Yeah, I think you make a good point with the balance thing. Yeah, that kind of has to be struck. But to me, I agree with you. Drinkwitz has built up, and I think some of these staff members have built up the kind of resume and pedigree to be trusted to navigate a down year on the high school trail and bounce back, try and find that balance. But we'll see. But yeah, Jason Crowe Jr., that's the big news. We will keep following that. Only 7 days away at the time that you guys are listening to this from a commitment. So we will follow it closely in the shows. Until then, for now, gentlemen, I think we should wrap up our show for this great Friday with quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We'll finish out the show. Kenny, your jersey of the week.
My jerseys of the week go to Dalen Carnell, Connor Tollison, and Zion Young. Those are going to be Missouri football's representatives for SEC Media Days next week, Thursday, July 17th in Atlanta, Georgia. Missouri is going on the last day, so that day includes Arkansas's Sam Pittman, Kentucky's Mark Stoops, and Texas A&M's Mike Elko. Those are the 4 teams. The day before is Alabama, Florida, Mississippi State, and Oklahoma. The only thing I really had to add from this, there's maybe 2 or 3 things I do have real quick. I think it would have been funny if Oklahoma was on the same day as Mizzou and Zion Young was the one talking.
Good
Second thing, I think this is probably a good sign of, where I think this has been thrown out there before. I even saw Callum McAndrew tweet this about where maybe Connor Tollison stands in his rehab, coming back from that knee injury and being in a spot where he can be, a vocal presence for the team kind of out there at SEC Media Days. And I think these guys will probably all have C's on their chest this year. I probably can count on Dalen Carnell and Zion Young to have it, but Connor Tollison coming back as a, what is it now, 4th-year starter at center.
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy to think.
That is crazy.
Nuts.
Like, I remember when he was, a redshirt freshman, barely, trying to get snaps.
Payton can remember
really
that too.
Spot. Yeah.
Oh, I
our
remember.
senior
He
year.
started because Bensi Polgar was ruled ineligible.
Yeah, that was a weird story too. But all of them will probably have C's on their chest this year, and it's a good group. And my last thing there is excited to see if Drinkwitz has a little fun on Twitter again. I know he likes to.
Oh yeah,
kind of get on the plane and take photos of his shoes and just say his shoes game is better than Lane Kiffin, or just have some shots at his buddies there. So I think that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, SEC Media Days. I mean, I remember the first couple years under Drink. Drink was like a darling at these things. People loved him. He was given quotes after quote after quote. He's toned it down a lot. I think he finally is kind of just let the results on the field do the talking for him. I will also say these 3 players, very safe options, I think. Like Kenny said, I would not be shocked if all 3 of these guys were captains. Dalen Carnell, Connor Tollison have been here for 4+ years now, which is just nuts to think about. I mean, I remember raving about Dalen Carnell's potential, just getting a couple snaps here and there behind Martez Manuel. So to see him be back here now is really cool. Zion Young, of course, was a really solid transfer. His teammates rave about him. So don't expect to see a whole lot of fireworks from Mizzou with this lineup.
I'm excited for SEC Media Days. Payton, your jersey of the week.
My jersey of the week is going to be Kobe Brown, the best player in Mizzou basketball history, according to Peyton Haberman only. He is on the Los Angeles Clippers Summer League roster for the 3rd year in a row. You don't see that too often. There was an interview. I saw a interview clip with whoever the Summer League coach for the Clippers is. I forget his name. It's not Ty Lue. But he said, like, a big reason. Yeah. He said a big reason Kobe Brown and Jordan Miller was the other name he threw in there were on the roster this year is they want to get them as many reps as possible because they expect them to be like real contributors to the actual Clippers this year. So just a little bit more time to kind of develop for Kobe Brown.
They shook up their front court. They got Brooke Lopez. I'm looking up their depth chart. I want to see where he is right now. Okay, it's like the fourth option of power forward. It's a long way up. It's tough. I mean, he got drafted to a team that wants to contend, so they're going to obviously add vets. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch him in the summer league. He'll be playing against Tamar in one of the games.
July 17th.
July 17th.
Think they know each other at all?
Thank you, Kenny.
I
probably
think so.
talked. They probably talked. I'm sure
Kobe's been back.
Yeah, Kobe's been back a couple times, so that's.
Do you want me to run through the schedule?
For the Clippers, sure.
No, just not the Clippers, but a lot of the Mizzou guys that are in the summer league.
Go for it. I think I did it a couple shows ago for Tamar and Caleb, but.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just go through Kobe's. Friday against the Houston Rockets. I guess that would have been last Friday. Oh no, should be this Friday.
Or tomorrow when you're listening to this.
Great run.
Yeah, when you're listening to this. Hey, okay, there's no date on it. It just says Friday. Bucks on July 13th on ESPN Plus. How about that? Los Angeles Lakers the following night at 9:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. July 17th against the Nuggets, and July 18th is when the consolation bracket begins, and it runs through July 19th, and then the championship is on July 20th.
Need some
very
Kobe
quickly.
Brown Summer League quick. Need some Kobe Brown Summer League clips. Also, just college basketball. We're gonna do the Mount Rushmore of 2010s college basketball players for Monday. There are some very fun names that joined Kobe on this roster. Jawan Gary played for like 6 years, Nebraska. Got Patrick Baldwin on there. Who else?
Man,
got drafted this year. Cam Christie, who was older brother Max, was in the Luka trade.
Yep.
Some fun names.
The Max Christie trade, they call it.
The Max Christie trade. That's how Dallas knows it.
The Jalen Hood Shafino trade, they call it.
What does that say? I'm going to assume that Kobe Brown is going to work on being a point guard for the other guy in the summer league. Who's the other guy?
Kenny, why are you flashing this? This guy is a blue check.
We're in deep. My jersey of the week is going to go to Keegan O'Toole. Keegan O'Toole, listen, we here on the Unwritten Rule praise success in the classroom just as much as success on the court, field, or in this case, the wrestling mat. And Keegan O'Toole, for the third time, earned Academic All-America honors from the College Sports Communicators Association. Only Tiger, I believe, to do that ever. Second Tiger to do that ever, along with a guy named Tyler McCormick. Keegan O'Toole's mats accolades on the mat speak for themselves. Obviously, legend of Mizzou wrestling, and congrats to him. Success in the classroom, gentlemen. I like Brady Cook was always earned a couple of these for football. So shout out to Keegan O'Toole for doing the same thing. Very excited. I forgot to cue up the Shawnee's main bird. Payton, stall while I find it. Stall while I find the main bird clip. Say something.
I'll stall.
Like a door.
You remembered Keegan O'Toole's name? He's on staff for Mizzou Wrestling now.
He is on staff now.
You were good about that, yeah?
Yeah.
We've talked about him a fair number of times this year on the show.
Shout out Heartland, Wisconsin. That's That's his hometown. That's where he's from.
I like no cap, and he's the main bird.
Oh, I didn't see this.
Why isn't my main bird playing?
He did
play.
He did play.
It didn't come through my headphones.
Podcasting, everyone.
It didn't come through my head. I didn't hear it. I thought it didn't play. All right, main bird of the week. Go, Kenny.
True son DeMar Carroll will be the Suns Summer League head coach. There were a couple of interviews out there. He's already done some press conferences just about some of the guys that they have with the Suns right now. One of the big things he talked about was culture, which I thought was interesting. You hear that a lot with college coaches, but just him being an assistant for the Suns now, which is crazy still. We talked about that already on the show, but I know we can't really say, we feel old, we're only 24. but it's still, it feels weird to see that DeMarre Carroll is getting interviewed talking about the future of the league and how he's coaching these players. But he wants to, change the Suns culture. They're kind of going through, I guess you can say it's a rebuild. They traded away Kevin Durant. Got a few pieces.
They're going through something.
They're going through change. We'll say that. It's change.
Traded KD. They're stuck with Bradley Beal. They extended Devin Booker.
Devin Booker might be the most loyal player in the NBA to stick around with what the Suns are doing. DeMarre Carroll's maybe stuck around
longer.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's fighting for that Damian Lillard spot. We'll make it an award.
Would it make you feel older that this is DeMarre Carroll's 4th team as a coach in the league?
Cavaliers, Suns.
That's the hard one. The Cavaliers was the one I forgot. The Suns is one.
He came from the Cavaliers, I thought.
Yeah, he started at the Cavs. Yep. And his Suns now, so the 2 in the middle. Do you want to guess?
I don't know. The Bucks, Knicks.
The Bucks is one.
Okay, I don't know the last one. Hawks.
The Knicks, you're close. The other team.
Oh, Brooklyn. Okay. I think I knew that Brooklyn one. Last thing here, I guess my bird connection, he was an Atlanta Hawk. And Payton, you brought it up earlier. The Los Angeles Clippers head coach for the summer league is Jeremy Castleberry.
Yes. Thank you.
There you go. I do love the idea of, I know he means probably culture from a larger standpoint, but I do love the idea of someone trying to build culture for a team that's playing 4 regular season games in the summer league. Just hammering that home. We have to have a strong culture. The season only lasts. The season's so short. Payton, your main bird.
My main bird is going to be Elijah Drinkwitz, the head coach of the Missouri Tigers football program. Because it's awards season, guys. Drinkwitz was named to the 2025 Dodd Trophy preseason watch list. He is one of 26 people that were named on this watch list. It is the Bobby Dodd Coach of the Year Foundation and Peach Bowl Inc.'s award. The bird connection here is going to be, among the many other coaches nominated for this award, is Jeff Brom for Louisville, the Cardinals, and Matt Campbell for Iowa State, the Cyclones. The little Cardinal guy. Come on, Kenny, do it for us. Yeah, there it is. Also in Mizzou's press release, they talk about some of the draft picks under him. One of them is Darius Robinson, who is, of course, an Arizona Cardinal.
Award season is here. This is good. If we have to talk about a lot of them, that means Mizzou's doing some right stuff. So congrats to Eli Drinkwitz for that. My main bird of the week is Sean East. Bird connection. I don't need one. Well, Sean East is from Louisville, actually, who are the Cardinals.
The bird.
But I don't need one. It is the Sean East main bird of the week. He is exempt from any sort of actual bird connection. Sean East, he is absolutely balling in the Canadian Elite Basketball League, the CBL. I don't know if is it Elite in there? There is Elite in there. That is the formal title, I guess. Whatever. We talked about this a while ago that he was joining the Edmonton Stingers, and he has been playing really well since. They are in 3rd place in the Western Conference. He is 2nd in the league in scoring. He's averaging 24 points per game. He's also 2nd in the league in steals, averaging over 2. And he is shooting 51.9% from 3 in this league. Just absurd. And that's on, he's attempting over 5 threes a game. So it's pretty decent volume too. So Sean East balling. He also, in fitting Mizzou fashion, is shooting 93% from the free throw line, which I had to throw in there. Notoriously good free throw shooting team, Mizzou. So yeah, Sean East, very glad he's been balling out. Hopefully he can get maybe a chance on a 2-way deal, go to maybe a more elite league over in Europe. So yeah, very exciting for him. I don't know if you guys have any other notes. I want to name some other famous CBLers after
anyone that was at the Night at the Columns event that Mizzou hosted before Dennis Gates' first season and saw the 3-point competition.
This is facts.
That Sean East absolutely was a great 3-point shooter. So
this is
no
facts.
shock there. Good for Sean East, man. I feel really bad that the one season he was the primary guy. They went 0 for 19. Sean East definitely was a good player that deserved better.
Yeah, that better ending. A couple other notable players in the CBL. I was looking at the stats, and some of these names made me laugh. Yuri Collins played for St. Louis. If that rings any bells, Yuri Collins. Jameer Nelson Jr., son of the Jameer Nelson,
Delaware Blue Hen, if I'm not mistaken.
Delaware Blue Hen, George Washington Revolutionary, and I think there's one more.
I think he was at TCU.
He
then
might have played another one.
Give me a
Turquavion
mistake.
Smith, he was like a high recruit, played for NC State a couple of years.
Oh,
Tyrese
yeah, okay, I do know that one.
Tyrese Samuel played for Florida a couple years ago.
Yep, I remember him.
And then this was the old head of the group. Do you guys remember Quandary Witherspoon?
Nope.
Okay, he played in the NBA a couple of years. He's a good immaculate grid guy. Those are my other famous CBLers. I was having fun looking at the rosters. Best thing you learned, Payton.
Best thing I learned this week: college football 26 is out, and the Mizzou roster is out as well. Obviously, shout out Tiger Will 06 for tweeting the video of the roster. If you're on the YouTube, you can see his tweet. The video here. Some of the notable ones, I thought the highest rated players are both Ahmad Hardy and Caden Green at 92 overall. Catalan at a 91 overall. I think that's great. Dalen an 88. Tollison an 88. There's your two of your and Zion Young at an 84. So there's your SEC Media Day guys. I can't remember. I believe Perbula was an 80. If I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to click through the video. Yeah, Perbula's an 80. Sam Horn is 77. Mizzou's got a pretty decently rated team. A lot of 80 and ups. So not a bad. I didn't have any real misgivings with a lot of the roster, personally.
We're about to enter the new year, and how many Ultimate Team cards does the Mizzou admin, or does the Clear Mizzou alum who decides those, give the Tigers this year?
We'll get to talk about. I will say the one rating I didn't like, Marquise Johnson, only a 95 speed. I think he is higher than that.
Oh, yeah, that's dumb.
And 95 speed, I mean, if you've played with it in the game, it plays very, very fast, but still.
Yeah, he should be higher. 96 or above.
What?
Kenny? Are you
Oh
right?
my God. I didn't notice this before.
What?
Look who's at the bottom here. Can you guys see it?
Hold on. I'm clicking through to the end here.
Something Mobley? Oh, Tobias.
No, below
Brett
that.
LeBlanc is in the game.
Oh, no!
Brett LeBlanc. He's listed as a tight end
Oh,
at a
no.
They
53
gave him
overall.
the long snapper tight end rating too, like a really low.
Payton, I think, can you give a report next show at what everyone on Mizzou's toughness is? Because did you guys see that Kentucky punter that has the 0 toughness rating?
Yes, I did see that. No, I will not give a report on every Mizzou player's toughness rating.
Who is the highest and the lowest? That's
Okay, I'll do that.
Every player.
If you remind me.
Notable toughness ratings on Mizzou football. I want to know where they rank. That's so tough for that guy. How can you give someone a 0? Like, did you watch him? Or just like
He's clearly a wimp.
No toughness. Kenny, what'd you learn?
Best thing I learned this week is that Ben Askren provided an update on his health. It was, kind of came out of nowhere just because you didn't really know where he was at just in his process of getting a lung transplant. A really serious bout with pneumonia. I mean, he was in a coma. He even mentions in his video his wife had a journal and she was writing just updates on what things were happening because for over a month he has no idea like what happened. Like he has no memory of it. So incredible, that he's survived this and he's on his path back to getting back to like his actual weight, because you can see in the videos and in the photos he looks just so thin just from where he was. He was a very fit guy. He's an athlete, so I think even he mentions in there I think he got down to 147, and he said like the last time he was at 147 pounds he was 15 years old, and he's a serious MMA fighter. He's been, averaging a certain amount of weight to stick in his class for years. And I know he's kind of retired and stepped away from that, but very serious thing. And I'll just read a couple quotes of video. We'll stop playing here once I switch over. But he said, I got the double lung transplant. I made it out to the other side. I'm gaining quite a bit of strength. I'm learning to use everything again. It's been tough, not only on me, but my whole family and my close community. So I appreciate everything. His wife was providing updates there for a while, Amy Askren, and she even mentioned like he might need a lung transplant. He got the double one. So now it's just a recovery back to, his normal strength. And I think the biggest thing from this is that, maybe in a year or two, back in Columbia, I think that would be an awesome thing for him to just go back, hit big Mo again. Because I know a lot of people were really pulling for him, and not even just Mizzou fans, just the whole sports community. A lot of people appreciate Ben and what he's accomplished and respect him. So I think, everyone's kind of rooting for him and just excited to see him back in Columbia, back just doing his thing again, whatever that may be after this. And I think everyone's pulling for him.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to go watch the video. It's very cool to see that he's able to, after, like you said, Kenny, just being in such critical condition, able to just record and give an update to everyone. It's very nice. Like you said, there's some really, truly scary details in there, but it does seem like he hopefully is on the road to recovery now. Obviously, everybody's going to be rooting for him going forward.
Yeah, this is, great to see such a positive update. Yeah, he's, he was an actual fighter and clearly a fighter with this. And so hopefully it's just a speedy road to recovery. I can't even imagine that him saying he has to just learn how to do everything again. That's just got to be so difficult, but great to see, the MMA Mizzou community obviously kind of pulling for him, and we will continue to do that. So good update there. Kenny, my best thing I learned, we'll continue on the good news track. Mizzou women's basketball got its second commit in the 2026 class. They added a forward, Ellie Muller. She committed to Mizzou out of Dowling Catholic in West Des Moines, which is a powerhouse team out there in West Des Moines, Iowa. Talented players, second kind of forward center that Mizzou's added. They added Cecily Bandamore out of Tennessee. She's a 6'4" forward. I believe Muller is 6'3". Iowa State, Creighton, Minnesota, Kansas. She had offers from all of them. Visited Mizzou actually just last weekend, over 4th of July weekend, with her younger sister, Katie Muller, who's a recruit in the 2027 class. So maybe a potential for a pipeline there. But yeah, good second ad, it seems like, for Kelly Harper. I believe she is Muller, Dowling's all-time leader in defensive rebounds and blocks. Averaged 12 rebounds last year and 4 stocks, which is steals and blocks combined. So a little bit of a defensive anchor potentially for the future for Mizzou women's basketball. So Kelly Harper, what can we say? Continuing to cook on the recruiting trail, gents.
Yeah, very encouraging early signs in her first high school recruitment class last year. Missouri, and obviously things were not going to be conductive for high school recruiting with a coach on a lame duck contract. But to put it into perspective, Mizzou only had one high school commit for the women's class last year, and she once pinched and left. She decommitted. So it really is tearing the thing down to the studs pretty much and building it back up. And I've been pretty impressed. Obviously, we won't know until we see these players on the court, but the early signs are very encouraging for Kelly Harper.
If Dennis Gates is able to reel in Jason Crowe, they've got to be in a competition. That should push Kelly Harper. They need to get a 5-star and just keep getting better and better and better recruits going back and forth.
That is true. After Kelly Harper got her first one, Mizzou got Adkinson. Now
there you go.
Kelly Harper gets Muller. Dennis has got a counter.
Yeah, you got to counter. You got to match the. It's got a little. It's a little inner basketball team competition for them.
Give him a week, Payton. He might do that in a week.
Might just do it. All right, that's it. That's all I've got for the unwritten rule. Payton, do you have a joke for us?
Yes, I do. Guys, this one's a good one. This one's a dandy. I just read this one, just came across my desk, and I gotta tell you, big. This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. God, you're gonna love it. This one is so good. All right, I'm gonna read it now. Are you ready? This one comes from our favorite TV series, The Today Show. This one, guys, this one's amazing. You're gonna love this one. I swear.
Just scrolling.
Favorite TV series.
Just read it. Come on, man. You are just trying to find it right now. You weren't even ready.
Yeah, no. I do have one. I just wanted to see how long I could keep you engaged for. Guys, what color is the wind?
The wind?
The wind.
Like a wind. It's
man, I'm gonna kick myself for not getting this one.
Yeah, you are. This is a great joke.
That's a dumb question. Dumb question. That's a dumb question.
Wyndham Clark.
Boy, you two are way off. It's not even close.
I don't
What
know.
color is
I know
the
it.
wind?
That doesn't have a color.
Yeah, it does.
Good call.
What color is the wind? Blue.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
Kenny's getting
Oh,
sick of these jokes. Kenny's lost his funny bone. In the doldrums of the summer, Kenny's lost his funny bone.
Oh,
right.
man.
That'll do it for the unwritten rule. We'll have more Crow news coming up in the next week or so, I'm sure. And yeah, until then, enjoy the vibes, enjoy the summertime, and we will see you next time.